Hi everybody from Best. This is Miss Tammy, the case manager at the Hesperia location. I wanted to touch base with all of you. I know this is kind of a weird time with everybody having to stay home, but we're all doing our part so that this virus can stop spreading. So good for everybody for doing their part. I thought it would be kind of fun to maybe read to you each day out of this really cool book I found. It's called The Secret of Goldenrod. It's kind of a big book, so we probably won't get through all of it in a week, but I was going to read you a chapter each day. So today we're going to start with chapter 1, and it's a really fun story. I hope that you enjoy it. Trina pushed up the brim of her baseball cap and strained against her seatbelt to look through the dusty, bug-smeared windshield. "Do you see it yet, Papa?" Her dad shook his head, yawning. 2 full days of driving since they left New Mexico were nothing compared to the eternity of the last 20 minutes of this narrow 2-lane road with nothing on either side but cornfields. The ball game on the radio turned to garbled voices and then to static. "Read me the directions again," her dad said, turning off the radio. "The part after we exit the highway." Trina reached for the letter, the smudged and crumpled letter she'd read a million times. "Go east until you come to the big red barn with 3 silos. Then turn left onto the dirt road. After the double bump, cross the creek and turn right." "That's it? That's all it says?" "Yep," Trina said, and then she continued to read the letter out loud with brand new excitement. "The house is a Queen Anne with 6 bedrooms, 4 fireplaces, a library, a parlor, and a butler's pantry." Wait a minute. How could she have missed this every time she's read this letter? "Papa, it doesn't say anything about bathrooms." "It better have indoor plumbing." "There's always, you know," he pointed at the cornfields. "No way," Trina said, grimacing. Then she rushed to her favorite part of the letter. "The Harlan M. Roy family was giving you 1 year to restore the house to marketable condition." No matter how many times she read that line, she couldn't believe it. 1 whole year was almost like having a real home. And now she couldn't wait to get there. "Please hurry, Papa." "Hurry any faster and I might miss the turn." "Please," Trina insisted, knowing her dad was often too calm about important things. "How about you read and I drive," he said. Trina scrunched up her face at him and turned back to the letter. "Mechanical systems are functional but not up to code. A credit account has been established at Hank's Tool and Lumber on Main Street for all your supplies. The key to the front door will be under the mat. At your service, Mr. Gerald Shugstad." Trina sighed. 6 bedrooms and 4 fireplaces. "Biggest house we've ever fixed up," her dad said. "But what's a Queen Anne?" "The fancy kind, with gingerbread and wraparound porches." "Gingerbread?" Trina asked. "You know, all that frilly trim they used to put on the eaves of the roof." Her dad drew curlicues in the air when he spoke. "It'll probably look like a wedding cake." Trina imagined the house as big and fancy as a palace, and herself as the princess with a grand bedroom and servants. But what's marketable condition? "So it can be sold. It's been in the same family for over 100 years, but nobody's lived there for a really long time. Some great-great-nephew in New York inherited it, and he's decided he'd rather have the money than the house." Trina looked out her window, watching row after row after row of corn, thinking about what her dad had said. "That's sad. If I had a house that had been in my family for 100 years, I'd want to keep it forever, wouldn't you?" Her dad shook his head. "People always want what they don't have. If they have big, they want small. If they have the country, they want the city. If they stay too long in one place, they want to get moving. And if they're always moving, sometimes they want to stay put, Trina added, looking forward to a new Royal Iowa home, at least for a year anyway. Her dad reached over and tugged the bill of her baseball cap. Until they catch the traveling bug all over again like you and me. Trina didn't actually have the traveling bug, but her dad did, and her mother had it worst of all. Her mother was exactly the restless person her dad was talking about. He always said that she was trying to find herself. Luckily, her postcards, which came from all over the world, had no problem finding Trina wherever she was. The last one came from Tanzania in Africa. Sounds like Mom, she said. I guess, said her dad. Trina was used to the silence that followed any mention of her mother. She figured her dad missed her so much that he couldn't really talk about her. But the more postcards she got, the more curious about her mother Trina became. She hadn't seen her mother in nearly 8 years, and she had no idea of what her mother even looked like now, or how she was dressed or wore her hair, if she liked sports. Someday her mother would run out of places to visit. Then maybe she'd come home. As the truck crested the hill, Trina could see a big red barn in a shallow valley below. There's the red barn, she said, with silos. She leaned forward in her seat. 1, 2, 3. And when they reached the bottom of the hill, there was the dirt road. They took a left turn and bounced off the main road onto nothing more than a rutted dirt path and cut through the field of cornstalk taller than the truck. They were almost there now. Trina could feel it. With the urge to jump out of the truck and run the rest of the way, she rolled down her window and stuck her head out into the steamy August air, watching for any sign of a house at the end of the tunnel of the dirt road and corn. The truck bounced over a large bump and a loud ka-thunk, and Trina bounced with the truck. The old cargo trailer heaved behind them, sounding like it was ready to snap off. Ka-thunk! The truck jolted again. I guess that's a double bump, said her dad. Trina checked the trailer in the rearview mirror, glad to see that it was still attached. Look, Trina cried, up there, I see the bridge. The truck shuddered over the wooden bridge and headed straight for a wall of corn. That's the creek. Turn right, Papo, turn right. Her dad placed one big calm hand over the other and turned the wheel. What else would we do but turn right? All of a sudden, Trina had a funny feeling that the house was waiting for them. And they were running late. She kept her eyes glued to the windshield as the truck rolled on and on through the cornfield. Her dad's cell phone rang just once before it went silent. He glanced at his blank screen. So much for cell service out here, I guess. At that moment, the cornfields gave way to a meadow of tall yellow flowers. And then a big gray house with gables and chimneys emerged, as if it were growing straight out of the ground. Her dad put his foot on the brake and let the truck inch its way up the tall black wrought iron gate. Trina could feel her mouth hanging open as she stared through the bars and the gate at the enormous house. The house was not what she had expected. It didn't need to be fixed up. It needed to be torn down. Boards covered all the windows, and the few shutters that remained dangled from their hinges. Pillars that would have held the porch roof up, if the porch had still been there, lay in the weeds like fallen trees. Trina blinked and blinked, hoping that when she opened her eyes, it would be the palace she imagined. But with each blink, the house just looked worse. There wasn't a fleck of paint on the wind-beaten siding or a crumb of gingerbread anywhere. If the house was supposed to look like a wedding cake, the bride had to be an evil witch. Papo! I know what you're thinking, he said, shifting the truck into park just before he let out a sweeping whistle. Woo-wee! Isn't she a beauty? No, their next project was not a beauty. It was a hopeless old house sitting in the middle of a yellow sea like a dried-up island. We aren't really going to live here, are we? Trina asked. Trina, her dad said in surprise. You know I signed a contract. Besides, I think it's going to be a lot of fun working on this place. Fun? Fun was playing softball. Fun was going to the movies. Fun was not fixing up an old decrepit house in the middle of nowhere. Trina sat helplessly in the truck when her dad got out and waded through the sea of yellow flowers. He pushed open the side of the big black gate, which squealed in protest. And then on the other side, which was just as rusty, he hopped back into the driver's seat without closing the door and let his foot drag through the snapping overgrowth as they crawled to the top beneath the gnarled arm of a giant oak tree. What if I make a swing and hang it from this big branch for you? Trina sighed, disappointed by the house, and even more disappointed that her dad for still thinking that she was a little girl. He should know that an almost fifth grader was too big or too old for a swing. Reluctantly, Trina got out of the truck. She felt as limp as the tall flowers around her, until the eerie feeling that someone was watching her from the highest window, a window that was all boarded up, snapped to attention. She shivered despite the heat. Papa, do you think it's haunted? You and your imagination, he said, shaking his head.